Ready? 3, 2, 1. Go live. All right. Looks like we are live for the third try. Sorry about the wait, everybody. We seem to have some technical difficulties. Ready? 3, 2, 1. But yeah, so welcome, everybody. Thank you for showing up. Today we are chatting with Chad, aka Sunrain, in celebration of a new remix he did for Real People in Real Places. Previously, he remixed Views from 16 Stories, as well as a bunch of other artists. He's super good. If you haven't checked him out, make sure to go check his Spotify. It's Sunrain, says at the bottom there. And yeah, Chad, if you want to introduce yourself and everything, go right ahead.
Yeah, right on. Thanks for having me, Brady. I'm happy to be here. Super stoked for Remix to come out tomorrow. It was an absolute pleasure to work on, and had an absolute blast working on. Actually, both the remixes I've done for you were really fun, and the ideas seemed to come pretty easily because I was super inspired by the tracks themselves. So, thanks for that. A little bit of a background about me. I kind of started making music in high school. I was a hip hop kid, little white boy rapper, freestyling and stuff at lunchtime. And, it was just for fun back then. But then a little later, probably 11th grade, I met a good friend, still really good friend, him, Cameron Sloan. We started taking music a little more seriously and dove into production and beat making and stuff like that. And through that is kind of where I developed love and passion for writing music more than raps, which I slowly lost the passion for rap. Yeah, and just kind of fell in love with making music and compositions and stuff like that. I definitely learned pretty much everything I know about production just from watching and having Cam as a mentor. So big shout outs to Cam right there. Don't think I'd be making the music I am today if I didn't have him. So cheers to that. Other than that, I guess I kind of got into more chill side of things, ambient side of things when I moved to Toronto. Was exposed to more eclectic styles of music, Brian Eno, a lot of that stuff really inspired me. Cam and I also had a studio together. We were in a band called Snow Day. When we got our first upright piano is kind of when things really started to take shape for me. And I started to kind of realize more what I was really inspired by and the kind of music I really wanted to make. Just from owning a piano, I just started messing around and learning how to play it just on my own, and fell in love with that sound. So here we are today, a little bit of hip hop, a little bit of ambient, a little bit of piano, and yeah, that's it. That's me.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, I first met you and Cam when you guys were both making music as Snow Day.
Yeah.
And it still holds up. It's crazy how much that band and your album. How many albums did you guys come out with?
We only put out one
Just one,
album
yeah.
and an EP.
And an EP, yeah. Yeah, and they still hold up.
And oh, thanks, man. Appreciate
Crazy.
that. That's nice to hear.
For sure.
We also had another group before, but I won't release that name.
Oh no. Okay. Okay. I get it.
Good.
So yeah, as Sunrain, you make sort of ambient piano, down tempo sometimes. Um, when you're writing a track, how do you like? Because I know when you write a solo piano track or whatever, it's pretty easy to add on to it and add drums under it and whatever. Do you have like a sort of uh, technique, or pretty much what I'm trying to ask is, how do you know when a track should be solo piano versus like down tempo, or change into an ambient or a full on composition? You know?
Right. I think it kind of shows itself right away. If I'm pretty much all my solo piano tracks are just improvisations, so I'll wake up, I'll just start playing. I like to just kind of play around for a couple hours until something starts to click,
Hmm.
and then I'll start recording. So a solo piano track just kind of comes in the moment while I'm playing. I'm like, oh, this actually feels really good, and I'll hit record and I'll start improvising. No click track or no structured in the DAW or anything like that. So it just kind of shows itself pretty immediately, especially for solo piano.
Hmm.
For the other tracks, I kind of already know I'm setting out to make more of a full rich composition. So
For sure.
I'll either start with drums or more rhythmic. I'll always start with a click track, so I'm on the grid and stuff like that. So yeah, it happens pretty naturally from one way or the other. And as far as ambient goes, I pretty much know it's going to be an ambient track as soon as I start making a drone.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll add drums to a drone later, but that happens kind of down the line a little bit. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
That's sweet. Yeah, because when I listen to your music, you can really, at least the music that you've already released as Sunrain, um, you can really tell when something's a remix versus your own personal compositions, because you tend to not really do the down tempo side of things with your own stuff, but in the remixes you really embrace that, and it sounds super sweet. Um,
cool.
but what instruments did you start playing like back in the day? Were you sort of in the box guy, or did you actually learn piano and guitar and all that?
At first, I was definitely in the box, just playing with virtual synths and stuff, and then the more I kind of developed my skills and sound, I guess I probably got a MIDI keyboard and started learning piano on that. Nothing super developed yet. It was more just little synths and VST sounds and stuff. And I think the my playing really improved when I bought when we got a free piano.
Hmm.
Uh, y- you know, um, and then just hearing the sound of the acoustic piano just made me want to set out and learn it and get better at it. And so I would say piano is definitely my first and main instrument. Still to this day, it's the instrument I feel most comfortable on. Um, and I play guitar as well. I absolutely hate guitar. I hate playing it. I love the sound. I find it really, really frustrating, but
Yeah,
I do find it a key kind of sound in my music. So I grind through it. It takes me some time to kind of lay down parts
for
often,
sure.
but I do the best I can. So guitar, and then I also play drums as well. And I'm also pretty mediocre at drums, but I make it work, and I love playing drums, so it's a lot of fun. And
For sure.
uh, quantization is a lovely little tool.
Yeah, I'd like to point out in your tracks, like for the most part, the last time even I was over there and we were making a track, you literally pull out your live snare, your live cymbals and everything, and then I guess the only thing you really sample is the kick, right? Like,
Yeah, pretty much.
yeah, like that's super sick. Most people use pre-recorded samples and all that, and
Yeah,
you really tend to like that live sound, right? It gives a
totally.
lot of life to tracks. Um,
Totally, and I really find that the biggest reason I do that is because when I kind of have an idea in my head, I have a much harder time writing it out in MIDI notes
yeah,
and taking samples and plugging them in.
yeah,
I hear it, I kind of want to physically play it out, so I'll get the drum kit. Often I'll layer samples and other sounds just to kind of fill the sound out, but my ideas generally come from more of a acoustic, improvised kind of playing it live. Uh, so yeah, yeah.
for sure. Yeah, great. So yeah, the main reason we're here today chatting is because you are we're about to come out with a remix of "Real People in Real Places" tomorrow.
Yes,
And
sir.
in the past, you've remixed "Views from 16 Stories" of mine, and so we're gonna take this time to listen to the original um, "Views from 16 Stories," and then we'll kind of chat about what you did, and then we'll listen to the remix. So I'm just gonna
Cool.
pull this up right here,
Sounds good.
and I'm gonna mute us. All right, so that was just the original version of six views from 16 stories. Um, and yeah, that you remixed that what, like 2 years ago now, maybe?
Yeah, it's about that. Yeah.
Do you remember? Because I don't. Do you remember if you chose the track or if I did?
I definitely chose the track because I remember it was shortly after I heard the full record for the first time,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and um, that's kind of when I had the idea to do a remix.
Mm.
And I think I reached out right away, and that track stuck out right away as well. Something about the guitar lines and the simplicity of everything, yet how satisfying those melodies are,
Yeah.
really really drew me in. And then also the um, the rhythmic elements really drew me in too, because I immediately thought about a remix just because there's a lot to work with right there already. Um, uh, yeah, so I reached out to you, and you were down, and I think it came together pretty fast as well.
Yeah, that's what I
So,
remember too. I remember it being super quick, actually.
mhm.
Um, yeah, and even just thinking about the remix now, like we'll play the remix in a minute. But do you remember what exactly you took apart from it? Like even there, I just faded out. There
Mhm.
was still a minute or so left in the track, so it was that main bulk of the track. Um,
Yeah,
do you remember kind of taking it apart and like rearranging and stuff?
I do. A little bit. I remember starting with the guitar
Hmm.
and kind of using that, and I think I put it into a loop and kind of started playing things around it.
Hmm.
One little trick I always do, almost always with remixes, is I'll transpose either one or two semitones
Yeah.
up. So it's a different key than the original, but it still has a similar vibe and similar mood.
Hmm.
Uh, and so even just doing that, it kind of brought to light a new vibe. And then I kind of rolled with that. I sped it up definitely, and then I think I took the guitar lines and just kind of like made my own melody with them.
Hmm.
So similar pattern, but a little bit different. And then one thing I really wanted to do was kind of expand on the melodic content. So taking your lovely, simple melodies, very satisfying, making something slightly different, slightly faster, and then adding more melody on top was kind of my goal. Um, and one thing I really thought about was, and I always think about with remixes, is kind of I don't want it to just be another version of the same song. I
Hmm.
kind of want it to stand on its own as a totally different song that's taken inspiration from the original. So.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely something I've noticed about yours. Like I don't do a lot of remixes, but when I do, I definitely don't change the key. I don't speed it up.
Right.
And it's something that just, the characteristics of your remixes are just, yeah, it's why we did another one even.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you guys will hear like the same techniques went into that one, I'm pretty sure.
totally.
Um,
It was very, very similar techniques. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, we'll just listen to the remix now. Um, and I'll meet ourselves again. And for the next remixes, we'll have visualizers. But until then, okay, let's
Sweet.
start it.
Cool.
Man, that was amazing. I admittedly haven't listened to it in quite a while. But you did so much to this track to make it so much better. Like, even I know that you ran the horns through your tape machine, so that
Mhm.
hiss at the end is like so good, and even just the way you process the horns, they kind of blend in with the guitar, right?
Right.
Like it's
Right.
almost like
Totally.
extra. I don't know, textural pads or delays, like when
Definitely.
the whole beat is in and everything. Um, but yeah, if you have any, special techniques that you used when remixing that track, feel free to point them out.
Yeah, I think a big thing again is the transposing. I find that just automatically gives it this new life and gives it a new place to kind of go and a new place for me to take it. And then speeding it up, changing tempo with a remix is huge because again, it's taking inspiration, it's taking elements of the song, but changing it in a way to so that it stands on its own as a song of its own. So that's super important to me when working on music, when working on remixes. And then also something with that track especially is adding your own elements.
Hmm.
So adding my own melody with the piano lines on top and also with the electric guitar on top too, I think just gives it some new life and breathes kind of a new vibe into it. Um, so yeah, it's like I almost look at remixing like sampling the
Yeah.
song. I'm taking elements from it, but manipulating them in a way, and then adding and yeah, organizing them in a different way. Um, I think it's pretty important to add your own sounds to a remix if you want it to stand out. If you want it to stand out on its own, uh, mind you. So
For sure, yeah. Even when I remix tracks, like sometimes I'll think of an idea for the track and I'll be like, maybe I shouldn't add that because that could be a part of its own track, like,
right,
especially the
right,
way that I make music with kind of it's very loop based. But
right.
like even just the beginning piano, or not the beginning, but when the beat comes in and like you add that whole melody and oh my god, like if if we wouldn't have told anybody that this was a remix, other than like I think probably the horns is the only thing that gives it away.
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
it would have been a whole new track, and it's so sick. Um,
That's awesome. That's definitely my goal when doing remixes.
yeah, for sure. And it's so good.
I appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Yeah, and I hope everybody that is listening liked it. I see a couple comments saying that some people hadn't heard it before. Make sure to definitely
Mm.
go check it out. Follow Sunrain. I'll say that 1,000 times in this stream. But yeah, so we'll save the new remix till the end. Um, and in the time being, or well, almost the end, then we'll go into listeners' questions and stuff like that. But
Cool.
so yeah, let's go into your music. Like so you released an album. When was that? 2019.
Yeah, 2019.
Um, and it was super good. Since then you've released an EP and are now releasing singles and stuff. What are the plans there? If you want to go over them.
Um, yeah, so I just after the album, I kind of got that out of my system, and after that, I wanted to kind of focus on doing more one-offs and remixes and uh, also EPs, just to keep things a little shorter and try to experiment with new sounds and new styles.
Hmm.
So the one EP, Alora Gorge, that I put out was me exploring more of the solo piano sound as well as the ambient sound. Whereas my first album had a couple solo piano, but it was mostly down tempo. It had a lot of drums, had a lot of rhythm going. So after that, I've always been inspired by ambient and solo piano music. So I wanted to explore that more. And then for this uh, current upcoming EP. It's called Ma. Um, 4 tracks out of the 5 are out already, which are on my Spotify and everywhere else. For this one, I was focused a little more on, I guess, trying to get in touch with more classical, neoclassical sound. I wanted to have some more string sounds. I've used a lot of synth pads in the past, but I wanted to explore more kind of acoustic cello and string sections, and I had a lot of fun doing it, really. And then for the future, I'm kind of going in a different route. So I want to explore more drone stuff, a little more arpeggiated, synthy kind of ambient tunes. Got a lot of music in the works, and I have a lot of music that's kind of done and ready to go too. So I'm excited to start putting things together, and I think I'll probably stick with the EP. the EPs for now. Just I'm having fun doing smaller releases and
For sure.
more compact and cohesive. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and it seems to be working. Like I'm looking at your page right now, and I mean, yeah, already this year you've come out with a remix and 4 singles. Compare that to last year, you're already
Mhm.
on par with that. Essentially, you came
Mm.
out with two
Nice.
two remixes, a single and EP last year. Um,
Mm.
I'm so excited to hear the future works that you come out with. But something that's actually catching my eye right here too is the artwork of the latest 4 singles. Looks like
Oh,
three of them
thanks.
are the same. But who does your artwork?
So I did the artwork for those their original paintings. Um, I actually have a fine art background. Went to school in North Carolina for studied fine art. So I have a bachelor of fine arts. It was actually fun to do those album covers because for a while I didn't know what I wanted to do. I've kind of been lost with my visual identity for a little bit. And so it was actually quite refreshing to go back in and physically paint something that I felt worked well with the music. Um, Originally, each single was going to have its own artwork, but the two that are there now kind of stood out to me as a lot stronger. And the one piece is the full EP cover. Um,
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah, so I wanted the lead single to have its own artwork, and then the rest is going to be the actual EP cover.
yeah. So I was hoping we'd be able to transition into this. You're obviously a very talented musician and producer and everything. But when I first met you, I came over to yours and Cam's studio, and there was paintings and artwork everywhere. And I was like, "What? What is?" I thought this was a studio. Um, do you still paint a lot? Like, is this something you're still pursuing or not really?
Yeah, not as much lately. Honestly, I haven't since I moved out of that studio. I haven't really had the space for it. Also, the art world can be a little intimidating. I'm in a big city, and I pursued it for a while, and I kind of got a little deflated by the whole gallery scene and the pressure to kind of have uh, a good history and a good resume and CV and stuff. So I kind of lost interest in the whole schmoozing quality of the art world.
For
um,
sure.
I hope to someday get back to painting, but I feel like I'm more interested in the act of painting more than trying to like sell my work and stuff like that. So doing those album covers was like the first time I've physically painted in years.
Oh
So
wow.
it was awesome. Made me want to do more of it, but I think just as a hobby.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up because when I first saw them, like they were amazing. I was blown away. I was like, "What?" you know.
Well, thanks.
So I hope that you continue it in the future. That'd be awesome. But so back to your music. Um, are there any sort of either people or just things that you're inspired to achieve? Like what are you hoping to get from releasing your music, other than obviously, um, you know, purchases and streams and everything? But like, is there a certain sound that you're hoping to progress towards, or are you hoping just to do, whatever comes to your mind, or like, might be a weird
Yeah, I kind of.
question.
No, no, it's not a weird question. For me, I just want to be evolving consistently. I don't want to kind of get trapped in one sound and get trapped doing the same thing over and over.
Mhm.
And that's kind of why I love doing remixes and love putting, doing ambient, but also having songs with tons of drums and stuff. And I hope, in the future, I'll be inspired by other styles of music. And um, yeah, I think for me, just keep pushing forward and trying to develop my sound and not kind of be put into a box, I guess, is my main goal.
For sure. Yeah, and that's definitely a good one. You're already achieving that. Um,
Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's time to listen to the original Real People in Real Places, and then we'll get into the new remix. And then after that,
Cool.
we'll take listeners' questions. So if anybody listening now wants to ask something specific to Chad, I have a bunch written down from Instagram last night. But if anybody listening wants to, ask something, feel free. Um,
Cool.
and yeah, so I'll throw on the visualizer and see if I don't mess this up. Let me just make sure I got this here. Alrighty. All right. I hope you guys enjoy Real People in Real Places. All right, so that was Real People in Real Places off my new album, For Us Alone. Um, yeah, I'm super thankful that you were down to remix this one. I think it was between this one and This Guy Sings Its Chorus, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so if you want to talk about, I mean, I understand that it's pretty much a lot of the same techniques as the previous remix, but if you want to go over it at all, feel free.
Yeah, I think again, what stood out to me in this one was the just the simplicity of the melodies, yet just like such satisfaction of them, and they're slow and gentle, but they just feel so good.
Mhm.
And then again, the percussive elements really stood out as something to work with right off the bat. I knew immediately I'd have a rhythmic, something rhythmic to work with, and be able to chop that up and, and kind of make it my own. Again, I sped it up quite a bit. I dropped this one down one semitone, so it's in a different key. It's got a different vibe. And then I think this one I added more of my kind of own recordings to it. So I
Oh,
recorded lots of piano. I recorded the live drums as well, and honestly had an absolute blast working on this one. And came together really fast. And I think because I was so inspired by the original, it just kind of the ideas just kind of poured out of me. And I think I kind of had the basis of the track down in one session, which doesn't generally happen with me. I'm pretty methodical and slow when I'm working on stuff. So it's nice when things come together quickly, and this was definitely one of those remixes.
man, that's sweet. Yeah, just wait everybody until you hear it. Because it's sick. Yeah, I don't even know what else to say about it. Yeah, we can just actually just get right into it. Let's listen to.
Cool.
This track is called "Real People in Real Places" reimagined by Sunrain. It'll be out tomorrow, or if it's late for you right now, past 12 o'clock, it's probably out for you already. Um, but yeah, be sure to look out for it in your release radars and whatever else. If you're using Apple Music or any other streaming service, just go onto there and take a listen tomorrow for us. But in the meantime, we'll throw on the visualizer and yeah, we'll get into it here. All right. Yeah. So that was the reimagined version by you, Sunrain. Uh, and it's amazing. I love it so much.
Oh, thanks, man.
The first thing when you're listening to it that I noticed at least, um, was the is it a delayed piano? Did you just apply delay, or is it different takes, like kind of stacked on top of each other?
I think it's two different takes, and also the piano is hard gated,
Okay.
so the notes are kind of short, so you're not hearing the kind of sustain and release of the piano.
Yeah.
um, and yeah, so it kind of gives it that like kind of plucky kind of
Yeah.
vibe. And
Yeah. Exactly.
I chose to use the piano because I knew I wanted that plucky sound, but I really wanted the mechanics of the piano to kind of add to the drums and the rhythmic and texture. Um, yeah, so that was actually super fun. I had never really explored that technique before, and it worked out really well. So I've actually used it a bunch of times since then. So
Oh, okay. Sick.
yeah.
Um, when I first heard it, though, I mean, I've said it a bunch since, but it really just reminds me of old Mum,
Right.
the Icelandic band, and it's just even the main the lead synth, I guess you can call it, that comes in around halfway. Um, what did you do to create that one?
So that synth is this guy here. Let's see if I can get it over here. The Yamaha CS.
Oh, okay,
Just a little guy,
sick.
little boutique synth.
Yeah.
It's it's kind of like it's based off a pretty powerful synth, the original Yamaha CS, and it's cool because there's no patches, there's no presets, so whatever sound you kind of dial in, that's the sound, and there's no recalling it or anything like that. So
Sick.
it's kind of a fun little synth to work with. And then as far as processing, went onto tape as usual. Gives it kind of that saturation and a little bit of warble.
Hmm.
And I actually a little bit of reverb before the tape because I like what the tape does to reverb.
Okay, yeah.
It kind of applies that same texture and warble to the reverb as well. So yeah, that's kind of it.
Sick. And yeah, when you say tape, a lot of people think cassette, but you're actually working with reel to reel, right?
Yeah,
Like the big.
for that one. I work with cassette as well, but the reel to reel for that sound, especially the reel to reel, is actually the one I have. I'll see if I can throw it on here without
Sure.
ruining it. Is there? If you can see it,
Almost.
can you see
There we
it?
go. Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Sick.
So
Yeah.
it's an Akai reel to reel, and it's super old and in pretty terrible shape. So it definitely has a sound,
Yeah.
and it has a rough kind of really detuny kind of crusty sound, which I love. And I kind of put everything through that. And then I use cassette decks for a more cleaner sound. And yeah, I absolutely love what kind of putting stuff onto tape does to the sound and how it makes it kind of richens and livens it up. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the exact word. It makes it, yeah, alive, and
Hmm.
I don't even understand what it does, but even just the cassette tapes, right? Like
Yeah,
throw a MIDI piano through a cassette and it sounds real somehow. I don't even understand.
absolutely.
But
Yeah, that's funny.
it is funny. But yeah, like that remix is so sick. And once again, it's like if we didn't tell people um that it was a remix or a reimagined version, um I don't think people would know other than maybe the strings give it away.
Right.
Um
Right.
because you completely tear it all apart and it's amazing. Like when I remix tracks, I don't think to do that much like surgical uh anything. you know
Right.
like
Right.
I'll just kind of
Yeah.
add a drone or maybe an extra
Right.
piano. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing.
I've always been a huge fan of remixes that kind of just take the track to a totally different place.
Mhm.
And yeah, and that oftentimes you can't even recognize that it is a remix of that track. I've always loved that, and I think it's cool, and it's taking inspiration from the original. But again, like I mentioned earlier, it's not just another version of the original.
Yeah.
It's taken the element and kind of made it something new.
Yeah, like you said before, it's essentially sampling,
Yeah,
like you were
for
saying.
sure,
Yeah, it's amazing. It almost makes
totally.
me think we should have given it a new name.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I hope
Cool.
everybody that's listening enjoyed that track. Yeah, once again, it'll be out tomorrow on all your favorite DSPs and Bandcamp and YouTube and all that. Um, Before we get into listeners' questions, Pot Kettle in the chat just said, "I love the drum sound. That stuck out immediately. Such a great space on them, or such great space on them." And once again, that was just recorded in that room that you're sitting in, right?
Yep.
Just the snare, the
Yep.
ride, and the hi hat. Um,
Yep.
it
That's
adds
it.
so much to it. Like since I came over to your place that one time, um, that's what I do now. You know, I have my
Nice.
electronic kit, but just the live snare, the live cymbals add so much. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
You get the room and you get the air and you have control over the recording.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and I run everything through a preamp with like an analog EQ, so I'm EQing on the way in to kind of craft the sound
Yeah,
and yeah, to me this it's just I just can't beat it. I mean, I pretty much immediately when I think of drums, I go straight to my acoustic stuff. So
yeah, for sure. Um, so yeah, I mean that's pretty much the end of like the main bit of this. But before we end it, I've written down quite a few listeners' questions that I got on Instagram last night. I think there's like 9, and if anybody listening wants to ask something, feel free. Um,
cool.
but the first question actually kind of has something to do with Cinead's question in the chat, which is
Cinead.
do you have a preamp? But somebody last night also asked, do you have a desert island pedal or piece of gear? So like if you're stranded, what would you like to have? What's your
Okay,
favorite piece of gear that you have?
that's cool. Cool question. Um, do I have to own it already?
I guess not. You make the rules here.
Well, the thing about that question is that a pedal would be cool, but a pedal's nothing without a sound source.
Ah, true,
so,
true.
so I would say if I had, I would definitely want to have some kind of synth, maybe a Prophet or something, or like a Wurlitzer or Rhodes,
Okay.
something like that that I can write and play would be important. Something with keys on it that I'm comfortable with, I can play on. As far as pedals goes, I recently got the Microcosm by Hologram,
Oh, really?
and I am absolutely loving it. It's so much fun. It's so good, and it kind of does everything. It does so many different things. Yeah, it's kind of an all-in-one tool. So yeah, that's definitely my choice there.
For sure. Oh man, that's a good answer. That microcosm pedal, I've been seeing it all over Instagram and stuff. Um, I'm so jealous. I'm gonna have to come over to your place to try it
Yeah,
out.
buddy. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but another question that we got was, do you have a favorite track that you've released or not released, um, but of your own that you've made?
Oh, that's a tough question. That's really tough. I kind of, I think we've talked about this before, but I kind of, when I release stuff, I kind of stop listening to it. It's kind of, I try to just put that behind me and move on. But thinking back, I would say that one of my most successful tracks in the sense of sitting down and wanting to achieve something and actually achieving it, because that rarely happens, as most musicians know,
Hmm.
um, is my track Paper 2. It's a solo piano track.
Hmm.
Um, that was just one one morning. I sat down and started playing, and something clicked, and I realized I had found this mood and vibe that I've been trying to achieve for a while,
For sure.
and it still holds up when the odd time when I do hear it, it still feels good. So Paper 2, and there is no Paper 1, in case you're wondering.
Yeah, I remember when I first heard that. I think you sent it to me, and it was so sick. Like the way that your piano sounds with its mechanics and everything, and the fact that you don't. It seems like you like having the mechanic sound, right? The mechanisms
Yeah,
all in the hammers and all that. It's really awesome because a lot of artists, including myself, like I try to mask that as much as I can. Um,
right.
I wish that I had the you know guts to just allow it to sing. Um, it's amazing. It's great.
Thanks, man. The one thing with my piano, it's so old and large, and it's in pretty rough shape. I think it's over 150 years old now.
Oh well,
It's really big too. Is that I mean, no matter how hard I try, I can't fully mask it. So it's always there,
for sure.
and then in certain songs, I just really try to embrace it and actually amplify it a little
Yeah.
bit more. I get really mixed kind of reviews about it. It's like, oh,
Okay.
there's either too much mechanics, or we love the mechanics. It's like,
I can see that,
kind of
especially if
funny.
you're looking for like a specific vibe. Like sometimes it's a little bit jarring, but I love it
Yeah,
personally.
cool, awesome.
Um, all right. What next? Um, do you score films? Have you ever scored anything?
I have never scored. No,
No. Is that
I
something
would
you're?
love to.
Yeah,
I'm
you'd like to.
definitely interested in it. I just haven't kind of, I guess, had the opportunity to work on a film or short film. So
Um.
I actually don't really know what it's like to kind of write to picture.
Oh, true. Interesting.
Definitely something I'm interested in, though.
For sure. Anybody listening that's a director, hit them up. But the question is there a particular film or show that you would have loved to score yourself? Um, or at
Oh,
least have your music be used in?
right. Oh, that's a tough question. That's really tough.
Yeah, no,
There's so much out there. um, and also, you don't want to pick something that already has an amazing score, because I don't believe I could
exactly.
match it. I don't know. That's a really tough one. I'm not really sure how to answer that one. Trying to think of anything I've watched recently that I would have loved to score, but I will say a score that I've been really inspired by. There's a movie called Uncut Gems,
Oh yes, nice.
and it's with Adam Sandler. Funny enough, it's actually pretty serious. The movie's a little much. It's a lot of yelling. It's very New Yorker, kind of a little bit over the top, but the score I found was just absolutely captivating. It was so unique and so different. It was by One O Tricks Point Never.
Oh, is he the one that did that?
Yeah,
I didn't know.
yeah,
Wow,
yeah, and it's like just so amazing. I mean, if you haven't seen the movie, I mean, just for the score, it's worth checking out.
for sure. It
So
is a great movie.
I wish I to answer the question in a different way. I wish I could score something like
Oh, okay,
that.
yeah, that's perfectly acceptable. Um, what type of music do you mainly listen to? And well, we'll start off that. What type of music do you find yourself actually listening to?
I listen to a little bit of everything. Depends on the mood, depends on the day. I listen to
For
a
sure.
lot of African music, a lot of I mean from all over the world. Listen to a lot of dance music. I also DJ house music, and so I'm a big fan of house music. Big fan of minimal dance floor beats and stuff like that. When I'm at home, it's kind of more vibey, chill, groovy, funky, kind of all over the place, really.
For sure.
I do have a
Um,
playlist on Spotify called Dinner Vibes. I would say that's one of my. I would say a lot of those tracks are kind of my go-to vibe.
for sure. Let me link that in the chat.
Cool.
Without trying to make too much of a pause here. Um, yeah, do you reference like when you're writing music, new music especially? Do you ever reference tracks at the same time that you're writing?
As far as kind of like hearing something in a track and being inspired by it,
Hmm.
absolutely, yeah, 100%. Yeah, so I do think when I'm craving the need to like write music and I want to be inspired, I tend to listen to a lot of neoclassical, a lot of ambient, a lot of down tempo. I find it's really important for me to be listening to a lot of music when I'm trying to write.
For sure, yeah,
So I'm definitely maybe not. I would never kind of take a specific track and try to replicate it, but I'm pulling influence from all over the place and different tracks and different vibes for sure. It's often that I'll hear something and be like, oh man, that's nice. I kind of want to go and kind of feed off that and write something in that vein.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely get that. I get that a lot.
Mm.
Um, I got this one, which is interesting if I reword it, I think. Essentially, if you couldn't make the genres that you make now, is there a genre that you wish you could make? You know, like, is there anything
Definitely.
like what?
I wish I've tried a bunch of times. I wish I was better at making dance music.
Oh yeah,
I still try. I'll never give up. But I love dance music. I love house music, and I find I've been semi-successful writing it. But yeah, I wish I would. I was good at that for sure.
for sure. Yeah,
Fun,
that would
happy,
be
bumping.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
just
it's so
vibing
much
in the
fun.
studio, right?
Totally, totally. It's
Um,
harder than it seems because like dance music and house music specifically, it's so repetitive and loop based, and people who don't know, like, kind of sounds easy to make because it's all, all has very similar rhythms, similar drum beats.
yeah,
But when you actually sit down and try to make a banging house tune, it's a lot harder than you think.
for sure. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's like that with all dance music actually, like even drum and bass and all that. Like it seems simple because everything sounds so similar,
Mhm.
but to actually make something of quality is I can't do it. I've tried
It's
a
tough.
thousand times.
It's so tough.
How do you come up with your track titles?
Kind of free thought. I listen to the track a bunch and kind of whatever comes to mind. It actually just, I kind of just, and usually the title I think of when it's a work in progress kind of sticks.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I kind of just get inspired by the mood I'm in while I'm writing and whatever comes to mind. And I try not to overthink titles too much.
for sure. This question comes from Pot Kettle in chat. Do you ever imagine videos to any of your tracks while you're making them?
Um, I think not while I'm making them, but sometimes after they've gotten to a certain point, I definitely imagine scenery and imagery to the music. The style of music I write, it definitely lends itself to imagery too. So
For sure.
it's always there in the back of my head. Not while I'm writing though, just because I'm more in the zone of the technical side of things. And yeah,
Definitely makes sense. And then a second last question. So
cool,
Fable in the chat. Podkettle and Fable are frequent viewers of these live
nice,
streams. So
awesome.
they're always very helpful and everything. But Fable asks, he's almost done with his first album. Um, do you have any thoughts on releasing music through the internet? Any tips?
For sure. I mean, we live in a time that kind of anybody can do it right now. Um, I think it depends what you want to get out of it. I think uh, kind of decides the steps you should take, but it's so easy now to put music on. You go to a distribution website, DistroKid, STEM distribution. There's so many platforms and avenues to release music on. Um, I think for any tips I have is, I guess, don't rush any music out. When you finish songs, I think a big mistake that everyone has done, I'm sure, is just put it out. I think it's really important to sit on songs and spend time not listening to music you've made for a while, and then revisit it down the line after not hearing it for a while. And things may come up that you wouldn't have thought of, you know, before. That would be my biggest advice because you know it prematurely releasing music, I think, is a big mistake.
For sure, I definitely hear that. Yeah, sit on the music, make sure it's
Yeah,
of quality because yeah, your ears get fatigued, right? When you've listened to the album or the tracks too much, you almost trick yourself into thinking that it's good, right?
absolutely.
Especially in the
Yeah,
mixing stage and the mastering stage.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I actually totally agree with that. Just
cool.
sit on it for a bit.
Yeah, sit on it for a bit and revisit it, and sit on it and not listen to it for a while,
Yeah,
and then come back and listen to it. And if you're still happy with it, move forward with the release. And I've been loving DistroKid.
hmm
I mean, it's super simple, super easy. It gets to all streaming platforms, and um, as far as promo goes, it's kind of a weird time for that side of things for music marketing and stuff. So, I yeah, it's kind of hard to give advice in that sense because I'm not
Yeah.
really sure. you know.
Yeah, I'm definitely the same there.
Yeah.
Anything marketing wise and actually pushing yourself out there is a very tough thing to get advice on, to give advice
Yeah.
on.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
um, um, so speaking of all that, what's the longest you've sat on an idea before turning it into a track? Are you one of the people that plan before you write, or do you kind of just go in and improvise whenever you want to write?
Yeah, I kind of just go in and write and improvise on the spot. I don't really plan songs or ideas. um, but that said, for my first album that I put out in 2019, there was a track there that was written, and it was fairly complete for about 3 years before it actually saw the light of day. And
3 years.
I think it actually sat there without strings because I recorded a bunch of strings with Raphael on it later
Mhm.
on. I think it had no strings for about a year and a half, and I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what to add to it. Finally, got the idea. Recorded the strings like way down the road,
Yeah.
and I don't think the track would have ended up the way it did if I didn't sit on it and give it the time to breathe. And I ended up being really happy with it. So yeah, about 3 years I sat on that track, and
Wow.
yeah.
I would drive myself nuts if I sat on a track for 3 years.
But a lot of time was not listening to it too. So I
Yes.
think that helps.
I think that's super important. You know, what you just said, like I constantly make the mistake of just not allowing the track to grow, itself. Just
Mhm.
keep it in a folder on the computer, just leave it. I'm always, proactive and trying to just probably because I don't know, attention span is nothing for me.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's amazing. That's really really good advice um,
Cool.
for anybody that's listening. And then last question before
Cool.
we wrap it all up: who is your dream collab?
Dream collab. Huh. That's a good question. That's tough. Skrillex? I don't
Skrillex, yeah.
know. No, I'm just kidding. I would have to say one of my all-time biggest influences that ever is Bonobo. I think I would love to collaborate with Bonobo.
Hmm.
And he does a lot of collaborations too, so it's a possible.
Yeah, it actually really is possible, like more than
uh,
people know.
yeah, and I'd like to say Helios as well because he's a
Oh,
huge
nice.
influence, but I don't. He doesn't really collaborate. It doesn't seem like so. But yeah, Bonobo. That's my choice. My answer.
Nice. Any vocalists or anything?
uh, that's a tough one
Because
as
you
well.
don't really have a lot of vocals in any of your tracks, do you?
Yeah, no, I think I only have one remix that I put out with vocals in it.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, I'm personally I listen to 90% instrumental music. I'm more drawn to that side of things. If I had to pick a vocalist, I'd probably say uh, I don't know. This is tough.
It's all good. It's all good.
Uh, like Bjork or
Oh
something.
yeah, of course, for
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
for sure.
And maybe I forget her name, but the singer from Mum.
Oh yes, yes. I
Yeah,
don't know her name either, but I agree.
we should know her name, but
um, and yeah, other than that, this has been a lot of fun. This has been great.
yeah.
Before we end it, is there anything else? Any future plans that you'd like to share with some people that are watching and everything?
Yeah, I guess just for the future, I've got more music in the works, more music in the pocket there, ready to go. I also work with a band called Bison.
Oh
If you
yes.
haven't checked them out, we're kind of working on another album right now. So
Nice.
um, yeah, just trying to keep busy and keep making music and keep growing and evolving. And yeah, that's the most important for me right now.
Perfect. I just shared Bison in the chat. It's a how many people are in it? Six?
Five.
Five.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's fun too because we're Four of the five of us are, and actually, uh, we're all producers.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fun to write music. We just kind of like take turns messing around on the computer in Ableton, and we kind of do a circle of who sits in the seat, and we all have different skills and different. We have a harp player, a fantastic drummer named Brad Weber, and then the rest of us are kind of just multi instrumentalists, and our vocalist Sophia as well. So um, it's a fun project, and it's totally different from Sunrain.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives me, gives me a different outlet to express creatively, and I love all those people, and they're all my best friends too. So
It's
I didn't
amazing.
say Danny. I should shout out to Danny as well. So
For sure. Spooky fish.
Spooky Fish, yeah.
Um, but yeah, this has been a lot of fun, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you everybody for listening. Make sure to check out the remix tomorrow. And yeah, that's it.
Cool. Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. I generally don't like doing things like this, but for you, I had to say yes.
For sure, man.
So
For
I
sure.
really appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah. Thank you everybody again for listening. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Cool.
Later.
Bye.
All right. It should be hopefully